Ooh, we got a lot of nervous people out there that woke up this morning and looked at a couple of bad operational model runs that showed warm weather over their house to start December, as opposed to some of the cooler runs that we've seen in recent days. I have a feeling that this winter we're going to spend a lot of time talking people down off the ledge, ready to cancel winter at the first sign of a red anomaly over where they live. Well, my friends, I just showed you in yesterday's video how the models correct very often as we go out in time. I showed you an example of the GFS and the European ensemble, how the Northeast looked like it was going to be warm, and now all of a sudden we've got a big, really cold blast working in with snow as we get on in toward early next week. So that happens, my friends. You have to look at more than operationals. You need to look at ensembles, and you need to see how they compare, and you need to look at other seasonal factors too, and other indicators, other things that influence the weather, potentially a stratospheric warming. Have you heard that before? Yeah, you have if you watch this channel. Have you heard about the MJO? Yeah, because I've talked about that extensively too, particularly the last couple of days. And so those things influence the pattern, can influence it, and usually do to some degree. And so those are still in the place that we want them to be, or heading toward the place we want them to be. So because the operational models bounce around and don't show a trough in 2 weeks over your house, don't get too nervous about that. We've got some good things to show you today that kind of will help relieve the heartburn a little bit. So get the Tums, take a big drink of water, and sit back, and I'll show you exactly what I'm seeing. So hopefully you don't get too worried as we get on in toward Thanksgiving and into the holiday season here, folks. So this is the European AI, and we'll come back to this in just a minute. Again, an operational model. This is the GFS operational. I'm going to show you a couple of the latest operational runs. Then we'll take a look at a couple of ensemble runs. Then we'll take a look at a couple of seasonal runs. Then I'm going to show you some of the indicators that I'm talking about that are going to influence the pattern as we get on in toward December. And even a couple of outlets, weather outlets that have produced some compelling information too. So we're going to look at all of that right here, and we're going to do it quickly today because don't need to lollygag. I lollygagged the last couple of days, and you can go back and watch those videos where I went into detail on a lot of this. But I'm going to show you operationals here, the GFS operational out to 2 weeks. This is what it's showing. Earlier today, it showed something totally different, but this is the latest 12Z run. We've got a big orange and white blob up here in Canada. This is an EPO, a negative EPO, and what, as I've told you before, this helps to load Canada with air coming right out of the Arctic, oftentimes across the pole from Siberia. And then if you get a PNA ridge like this, this is a positive PNA. Air flows just like this down into the center portion of the country and eventually makes its way to the east, okay? That's what those things are that we look at when we go into weather pattern forecasting over the next couple of weeks. EPO, the PNA, the NAO, North Atlantic Oscillation, and several other things, but these are kind of the key drivers. And so those are favorable on the operational GFS out in time. And you got a big blue anomaly. This is a trough here, a full latitude trough. But do we believe this? No, because it's an operational model, unless other things are agreeing with it. So let's just see if they do. Here's the GFS ensemble. Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is the 850 temperature anomaly that would go with that upper air map that I just showed you. Very, very cold weather up in Canada, which is where you want it if you want wintertime in the central and eastern portion of the country, even the western portion if the flow is right. But we've got warm weather under that PNA ridge out west. Very, very, very cold air in Canada, poised to head south, and it's already south. Look at this. Very cold anomalies down here in Dixie and in toward the southeast, up into the mid-Atlantic and northeast. You're about average here. This is a 2-week out prog on the GFS. This is the European operational. We see something a little bit similar and a little bit different. We see an EPO ridge up here. That's good, loading Canada with cool air, but then we've got another ridge in the Gulf of Alaska. What is this? Well, this sends the flow back out like this. This is a negative PNA. This is a trough along the east coast, or the west coast rather, and that puts a little bit more pressure on the height pattern to go this way as we get on out in time. I don't see a big block up here, so more than likely the cold air would be north of that line for the most part on the European operational. The European operational is probably going to end up being a little bit more accurate. It scores better, but again, it's a 2-week out operational run. Let's see what it shows in terms of cool anomalies. Look at this. Very cool in the center of the country with the coldest air located right here in the plains. and a further extension of that along into the Tennessee Valley and into Dixie, with warm weather along the east and about average along the west and the desert southwest. Okay, that's the European operational and what it's showing. That's the 12Z run for today. That's the latest run that we have, and this is out 2 weeks from now. This puts us out at November the 30th. Okay, here is the European AI. Look what it does. Boy, it's got all the cards lined up in a row. A little bit of ridging up here in and just south of Greenland. Okay, so this ridge up here, big ridge here on the west coast, big negative EPO up here, EPO, and look at this, sending cold Arctic air straight down into the eastern United States. All of the stars are aligning. This is a big trough. Do I buy this? Absolutely not, and I'm going to show you why. Okay, I think we'll get to this, but I don't think we're going to get to this on November the 30th. But let's see what the European AI temperatures show with that. Well, it's got a big trough in the east, but look at this. The 850 temperature really doesn't match what it's showing. It's got the big core of the cold up in Canada along the northern tier, but not much out here into the desert. Oh, this is actually the ensembles. Okay, so I'm not showing you the 8. Let's do this just so I can compare apples to apples. Let's take a look here at the European ensemble. The European AI temperature anomaly. That's what I'm showing you now, the 850 temperature anomaly. Yes, that corresponds with that big trough you just saw. Look at that. Boom. Big Arctic cold in the east. Again, I think this is too early. The AI is rushing the pattern. I think we get there, but we're not going to get there as quickly as the AI is showing. Here is the European ensemble. Okay, I want to go back to the European ensemble height pattern. And that's what we're seeing right here, the European ensemble height pattern. Okay, this is 2 weeks out. The European itself matches up with this pretty good. You should have the core of the cold back here. You don't have a positive P&A. You've got a negative P&A. You have the big EPO ridge signal sending cold air into Canada. That's good. You've got an extension of the southeast ridge kind of back in through the southern plains and southern tier of the country. And that's what I expect to happen if you have an EPO up here and a negative P&A here, trough along the west coast. It puts pressure on the height pattern to want to rise up like this in the east, so you get the core of the cold above, just like I showed you on the previous map. So the European ensemble is doing a pretty good job, I think, with what the pattern is actually going to turn out to be as we get toward the end of November and flip the page and go into December. All right, so here's the European AI ensemble. It kind of agrees with the European ensemble. Now we're looking at ensemble means. These are runs that are made up of a varying number of members. The European has 51 members. The GFS, for example, has 29 members. And we're seeing a very similar pattern here. EPO and a negative P&A, a height rise response in the east, and so your cold is bottled up from the center portion of the country here, the northern plains, up into the northeast. And that's reasonable, and I'm going to show you why that's the reasonable scenario here in a minute. Excuse me. Here is the GFS ensemble, very similar to the other two. It's got the ridge a little closer to the coast out west, but still you've got the trough mainly out west through the Four Corners region up toward the Great Lakes with ridging in the southeast. And finally, the Canadian ensemble. Don't all the ensembles kind of look the same? Let's review them again. There's the European, ridge, trough, ridge. European AI ensemble, ridge, trough, ridge, GFS ensemble, ridge, trough, ridge, and then finally Canadian ensemble, ridge, trough, ridge. Those ensembles all agree pretty much with each other, right? That's what we take away. We don't look at operationals and see the bouncing around and see the AI with a big trough and just hug that just because we want to. I mean, I'd love to, but that's not what's going on here. We have a big agreement that we've got a ridge off the west coast, meaning a trough in the west center of the country, and then a ridge along the southeast coast. That means it's going to be a little bit warmer out west, cool anomalies in the center portion of the country, maybe up to the northeast, and then warmer in the southeast as we get into the end of December. Now, what am I seeing here that makes me think this is going to be the case? Look at this. This is our MJO. We talk about the MJO, and it helps influence the jet stream when it's in specific phases. The jet stream responds in different ways. And look at this. We're in phase 6 as we get out toward the end of the month. Look at this. The European extended, this is the weeklies, eventually take this into phase 8 as we get toward mid-December. Now, the pattern doesn't flip just like that, when you enter phase 8 from phase 7 to phase 8, it takes a while for the pattern to respond. And as we go through phase 8 into 1 and 2 through the month of December and January, expect the pattern to cool from the center portion of the country to the east. Okay, that's what's going on here. If we go back and take a look at the GFS monthly, look at that. Phase 7, it's going into phase 8 as we get into December. So yeah, we might have to be patient in the east a little bit, but look what's coming. 8, 1, 2. What does that even mean? Well, here's what it means. Look at this. If we get onto this map here, I'll show you what it means. Look at phase 6. Very, very warm. So when the MJO is in phase 6, it's warm for much of the country. If we go back here and take a look at the European ensemble, let's go to this. This is the AI ensemble. Let's go to the European ensemble here, okay, and take a look and see what this looks like. We're out here in the beginning of the run here, back into Monday, and then here comes Tuesday and Wednesday. Look at these big anomalies here for much of the country, these warm anomalies. Doesn't that look a lot like phase 6? Let's go back to phase 6 again. Where is it? It's right here. There it is. Phase 6, warm for much of the country. What does phase 7 look like? Very chilly up here in the plains and for much of the country outside of the southeast and even out in the southwest. What did we see when we look back through these maps? Look at this. The European model, what does it show? The ensemble show this too. The core of the cold back here toward the end of November, back in the plains with much of the center of the country warm, or cool rather, and then warm along the east and warm back out into the west. Doesn't that look like what we're seeing here in phase 7? Yeah, so the pattern's responding appropriately as the MGO moves along. Eventually get into phase 8, there's where the cold comes. Phase 1 is chilly, phase 2 is even chilly. And so we're going to see that pattern progress as the MJO moves along. You understand? That's what's going on. Here's the European ensemble mean, or extended. This is the weekly 2-meter temperature anomaly. Very warm, phase 6-ish out here until we get into the end of November, and then we get into early December, into mid-December, and it starts to look like phase 7, and then we get on in toward the middle of the month, and then we get a much more continental U.S. cool pattern that's shaping up. These are 2-meter temperature anomalies. We're going through the month and it's cooling east. This is encouraging. I know this doesn't look very, very cold because the colors aren't all green and stuff, but you're usually not going to see that way out in a European weekly or a seasonal type of a model. So it sort of mutes out everything, but that's a pretty good signal if you ask me. And then finally, a couple of other things here. Here's the CFS monthly for December. Look at this. A lot of cool anomalies. Center portion of the country, with the exception of Florida out here in the west, December is looking a little warmer. This has gotten cooler and cooler as we've moved forward in time. And let's go back to that. I want to show you January. Look at January. It's even got a cool January now. Look at February. Icebox. When is the last time you've been in a La Nina and seen an icebox February show up here on the CFS? Usually it wants to keep everything warm way out in time. That's pretty encouraging. I like that. So we'll see if winter follows that trend or not. But we look at the stratosphere. We talk about that. That's another component. Does that still look like the warming that we've been talking about is on track? Well, let's just run this out. This is the stratosphere at 50 millibars, one of the lower areas of the stratosphere. Look at this. Warm, 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 warmer and warmer and warmer as we get on in toward the end of November into early December. We're seeing a big time stratospheric warming event still on deck. That will take some time to work its way through the pattern. Does that warming at the lower levels work up to the top of the stratosphere? Well, here's 10 millibars, top of the stratosphere. Look at that. We get on it here. Warm, 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 warm. It displaces the polar vortex, maybe even causes a wind reversal. And yeah, so we're looking at a continuation of this stratospheric warming in the models. That's not gone anywhere. So don't get discouraged because a model run shows warm anomalies. We've got a lot of things. They're going to bounce around, but we're tracking appropriately with the MJO. We're tracking appropriately with stratospheric warming. We're tracking appropriately seasonally. And so I'm not really worried at all. I think our cold pattern's coming and we've got an active pattern. We're going to see storms come in and a lot of people are going to get a lot of snow as we get on into the winter. So don't be discouraged. Look at this. Here is the Weather Channel with their December forecast. Cool up here across the northern tier into the Great Lakes, down and toward the upper part of the southeast. Half of South Carolina is cooler than normal. It's a little confusing up here that we've got all of this high pressure essentially that would be working in and bringing winds out of the north, but yet we really warmer than normal up here in the northeast. Maybe there's thinking blocking is going to be occurring, and you're going to have warmer temperatures in Canada up here that's kind of spilling there. I don't know, but outside of that, I think this is not all that bad. Even though some of these places here, I think, might even be cooler than what the Weather Channel is going for. And here is what the CPC's latest outlook for this takes us into December the 12th. So this is week 3 and 4. So November 29th through December the 12th. Looking at a lot of below normal temperatures, a lot of real estate below normal across northern tier, southeast where I live. Unfortunately, we're going to start December probably in the mild camp, but those anomalies, that cold weather should be pushing in as we get through the month, okay? Hopefully that helps a little bit kind of explain some of the latest data. Don't worry about it. If you see people posting big warm maps on X and they're looking at operational runs and saying things are turning around, look at the other things. I'll be on top of it every day. Follow me here, follow me on X, or subscribe here, and I'll keep you up to date on all the different indicators and things that we're seeing here as we go forward in time. All right, so we're going to look at the last couple things here. Show you what we're going to expect over the next couple of days to the work as we get into the work week. Big storm coming out of Canada, going to wind up here, provide some rain and snow into the northeast as we get through Sunday. You wake up tomorrow, it's going to be raining up there, snowing up in Maine. Going to be windy up there as well. More interesting weather working into California. Going to see plenty of rain out here, snow in the higher elevations. Those snow levels are not going to be all that low right away, but cold air is going to work in up here over the course of the next couple of weeks and start to see those snow levels drop. So as we get into Monday, snow up in the northeast behind that system. We're going to see snow showers up there. Lake effect snows kicking in a little bit, and then more rain and storminess coming into California. Another system working through the middle of the country. This came into California now as we get into the midweek. Going to dampen out a little bit as it experiences some ridging, so maybe some showers working in on Tuesday to the Midwest and over toward the Tennessee Valley, but more wet weather in the Four Corners region. Snow levels may drop a little bit behind that, but another front pushes in as we get toward Thursday and Friday. And then we start to see a big storm system take shape here in the plains and bring in potentially a severe weather threat as we get into Thursday and Friday. Look at this. The European really wants to bring a squall line together. Probably would see some tornadoes here, strong winds, and large hail as this system winds up and heads in toward the Great Lakes and brings some wet weather up there. Snow levels will be very, very high at that point. Probably have to go up in Canada to get snow out of this storm as it tracks to your north, pretty much everybody in the northeast, and drags some showers through the southeast. It's going to be kind of dry down here in the southeast for a little bit as we get into next week, and then maybe see things turn around after that. Looking at temperatures, yeah, big warm anomalies here for everybody in the west. Northeast, you're getting that punch of cool air coming in. Look at this as we get on in toward Saturday and Sunday to today and tomorrow. There comes that punch of cool air I was talking about. I was a little bit before. And there we see as we get on out into Monday afternoon, very warm out west. It's going to be cool on the west coast as more storm activity pushes in. But yeah, there's that anomaly, that cold temperature blast that the models did not see before. I keep using the word anomaly today. I don't know. It's one of those days you latch onto a word, and I've probably used that 20 times, so sorry about that. I'll clean that up for tomorrow. But these cooler temperatures will work into the northeast as we go through Monday and Tuesday, and then clear out by the time Wednesday gets here, and all of those big warm temperatures will move on in toward the east as we get toward next week, out ahead of this next system. More warm weather pushing in out of Canada as we go on out in time, with another cool shot coming in on the heels of that back. This is almost approaching 10 days out, so we'll just stop it right there. But that's what we're looking at as we go on out in time. Here's the snowfall forecast over the next several days. This takes us in through Friday morning of next week, and you can see the biggest areas that we're going to pick up snow are up here in northern Maine and some of the lake effect areas here in the Great Lakes region, and then out in the Sierra Nevadas. Look at this, over 2 feet of snow are possible, with just continued storm activity moving in, a very active pattern moving in out here in Nevada, looking to pick up some snow. And then in the Rocky Mountains in Colorado and Wyoming, you guys are definitely going to pick up some snow too over the next 7 days. So that's the forecast for today. Hope that's been helpful to you. Don't jump off the ledge just yet. We've got a lot of winter to go. We haven't even gotten started with it. And I think it's going to be a banger for many parts of central and eastern U.S. That's all I got for you today. Hope you have a wonderful day. I'll use the word anomaly much less tomorrow, I promise. Anyway, have a great day. Take care, everybody, and God bless.